There's another threat stemming from COVID-19, the warning doctors are giving.
And Congress is set to return from its summer break, where each side stands on a stimulus agreement as we near the presidential election.
And you have less than a month to register to vote, where you can find an application and how to check your status. But first, your morning headlines. Good morning, I'm Rachel Reagan in for James Epler.
And I'm Blair Sable filling in for Kristen Carroll. While COVID-19 is still a concern, doctors are also warning of another threat during the pandemic, superbugs.
Our Amy Anderson tells us what they are and what you should consider to prevent them.
It's a term that many may not be familiar with. Superbugs. They are a strain of bacteria, viruses, and parasites that is resistant to most of the antibiotics and other medications commonly used to treat the infections they cause. But some doctors blame the overuse and overprescription of antibiotics to treat COVID-19. Dr. Helen Boucher, with the infectious disease expert at Tufts Medical Center, says this process can cause infections to spread over time.
Bacteria are smarter than we are, but it's increased and the pace is more rapid in the setting of antibiotic use and especially antibiotic overuse.
Texas is in the top 25 states when it comes to antibiotic usage, at a rate of 805 prescriptions per 1,000 people. That's according to data from the Center of Disease Dynamics Economics Policy. That can lead to an antimicrobial resistance, where infections evolve to fight off typical prescriptions. Dr. Boucher says she noticed an increase of overusing antibiotics when COVID-19 started to become more prominent.
Fortunately, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, that we doctors did use too many antibiotics in these patients as what we call empirical therapy, just in case. We've learned quite a bit in the last 6 or 7 months, and we're doing less of that now, but we certainly have a way to go.
With the possible risk of getting infections from being overtreated, Dr. Boucher says it's a good idea to talk to your doctor before settling on antibiotics.
We should ask the doctor, do I really need an antibiotic if he or she prescribes one? We should be prepared to be told that this might be a cold and that there's no role for an antibiotic, and try not to demand them. To make sure that we use antibiotics only as needed, and then when we use them, to follow the directions.
There are more than 2.8 million drug-resistant infections in the U.S. each year. They kill 35,000 Americans a year, according to the CDC. Amy Anderson, Good Day Lubbock.
Another person has died of COVID-19 in Lubbock. That total now at 105. The city confirmed 45 new cases of COVID-19 yesterday. 16 more people have recovered from the virus. That brings the number of active cases to more than 2,700. More than 6,000 people have recovered in our area. City leaders said they anticipated more new cases with schools and tech open. 897 new tests were done, and nearly 100,000 tests have been given total in Lubbock County over the past 6 months. The positivity rate is about 10.7%. 54 people are hospitalized for treatment, 23 in the ICU. That leaves more than 550 beds open for any kind of treatment. The third big holiday of the pandemic came with the same warnings as the previous two. Wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and keep your distance.
Yet in some cities, towns, and beaches over the weekend, you wouldn't even know there was a pandemic, where we could possibly see COVID-19 outbreaks in the coming weeks.
Labor Day celebrations in full swing over the long holiday weekend. While some opted for socially distant walks or small barbecues with family, others choosing to enjoy the last blast of summer just like any other year.
Basically, everybody's going to continue to live their life, so we might as well get with the program and just come and turn up with them too.
Downtown Nashville looked a lot like it did before the pandemic, with bars, restaurants, and streets packed to the brim. A mask mandate, police on the scene, and even an early closing time for bars didn't seem to keep the crowds away.
I feel safe. If I was scared, I would have stayed home.
In Southern California, people trying to beat a record-breaking heat wave by hitting the beach, with many coming in from out of town.
I'm from Phoenix, and we're over 100 there. We need relief from the heat.
All this despite repeated warnings from officials to be extra cautious this weekend and learn from past mistakes. Memorial Day and 4th of July gatherings fueled large spikes in coronavirus cases across the South and West, causing many states to dial back their reopening plans.
There's still businesses that aren't open. There's still people who can't see their grandparents. There's still kids who can't return to school.
Health experts say Labor Day is a critical point in the fight against the pandemic, given the potential danger of COVID-19 colliding with flu season. Chris DeMayo, Fox News.
With Congress set to return from summer break, many feel the first order of business in Washington should be another coronavirus stimulus package. Both sides remain divided with just 56 days until November's elections. And it's not just the president on the ballot. There's plenty of Congress on the ballot as well. On Fox News Sunday, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin blamed the Democrats for the stalemate in Washington.
We've injected $3 trillion into the economy. People thought we'd get 25% unemployment. Fortunately, it never came close to that. We're down to 8.4. But the president and I believe we should do more stimulus. The Speaker has refused to sit down and negotiate unless we agree to something like a $2.5 trillion deal in advance.
Democrats have proposed a COVID relief package that costs more than $3 trillion. And despite the great jobs report last Friday, 7.5 million Americans are still without work. The current budget expires at the end of the month, and an extension is likely through December, according to Secretary Mnuchin. The Senate returns tomorrow and the House early next week. You've got less than a month left to register to vote in time for this year's presidential elections. The deadline is October 5th. To see if you're a registered voter, you can check out the Lubbock County Elections or Texas Secretary of State websites, and we have those links at fox34.com. You can also pick up an application at the elections office downtown, the post office, or the public library. And due to delays caused by the pandemic, municipal elections will also be included on this year's ballot. Hurricane Laura made landfall more than a week ago, but the cleanup is just getting started.
That is right. Blair spoke to a Lubbock volunteer before his team headed to Southeast Texas over the weekend to help out one of the most devastated areas. It's a big job and requires a big heart.
Volunteers from the Texas Baptist Men Disaster Relief Team are getting to work in Deweyville, Texas. On Friday, Jason Morton of Lubbock began the nearly 10-hour journey to join the relief efforts.
I've lost count at this point.
This isn't his first time being deployed to help in a crisis, but it will be one of the biggest trips he's ever done.
With this being such a large disaster in Southeast Texas, we're going to be gone for quite a while.
He's on the heavy machinery team using this skid steer and chainsaws to help clear out the larger debris. His team is now tasked with completing hundreds of work orders that have piled up since the storm cleared. But TBM volunteers also help out in many other ways.
We actually have cooking teams. We have shower and laundry trailers. When you're in an area that doesn't have running water and they don't have electricity, one of our portable shower trailers, it's quite nice to have a shower at the end of a hot, sweaty day.
The organization aims to be there when they are needed most.
This is the worst time in their lives for a lot of people that, they really have this feeling of hopelessness. And so when you have this team of volunteers show up to help them get a hot meal or, a hot shower, or get their clothes washed, or show up with chainsaws to cut up this tree that fell on their house, it really shows them that they are loved.
The volunteers are expected to be stationed in the disaster zone for about 2 weeks.
Pray for us, and also pray for the people that are affected.
And this is one of the longer trips these volunteers usually do. And when I spoke to Jason Morton, he said that he's sad to be away from his family for so long, but he is happy to be doing this work. Best of luck to the team. Crews are battling dozens of wildfires in several states on the West Coast.
California has been hit especially hard, and experts are warning hazardous weather conditions could add more fuel to the fire.
A pyrocumulus cloud hovering over California caused by major wildfires this Labor Day weekend. According to CAL FIRE, more than 2 million acres in the state have been scorched thus far this year, a record, and things aren't likely to ease anytime soon.
3 of the 4 largest fires in California history are burning right now, and the heat in triple digits off the charts for even September, and we're not even close to the peak of the wildfire season.
The El Dorado fire in the San Bernardino area and the fast-moving Valley fire in Hapatul has some residents getting ready to evacuate.
It just exploded and came up to almost where it's at now, and the intensity of the heat is just crazy.
Down over there, there's a lot of houses. It's been sitting there for a while, and now it's starting to move.
The Creek Fire is spreading rapidly through the Sierra National Forest, where the California National Guard rescued more than 220 people who were trapped in the Mammoth Pool Reservoir Recreation Area.
To see all of the interagency partners come together with the amount of resources, with the uncertainty of what was actually going to come off the helicopter, there were plenty of resources to ensure that all were provided the care that they needed.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.